Well, I hope you've enjoyed those trips to Photomart as much as I have. But moving on, we're back with Chris. I'm going to take a look at the type of lenses you can buy if you bought yourself a DSLR camera. So what kind of stuff have we got here then?
Well, starting yourself off, when you buy your SLR, you're going to get your kit lens.
That sounds a bit like I'm going to have to build it. I'm not very good at that kind of thing.
Well, no, not quite. What your kit lens is going to do, your kit lens is going to get you a standard lens.
Oh, okay.
Standard usually referring to 50mm. That's where we tend to start the ratio off. Saying that though, the word standard can often be pushed to one side now.
Yeah.
There's nothing standard about these lenses. Good example, Canon here, new 40D, came out about the end of last year. What this has got a 17 to 85mm image stabilised USM lens. Major benefits there, image stabiliser, multi-coated glass and ultrasonic motors. This lens is worth about £500 by itself. Buy it with the camera as the kit, you get it for £200. So that's again the sort of thing you're looking at.
Right.
Sony doing very much the same thing, offering you a nice 18 to 70mm lens, designed by Carl Zeiss Group, simply because it doesn't carry the badge. Again, they knock it in half. The prices in these things are fantastic, and because of that, you get a good kit to start you off.
Okay, so moving on from kit lenses, what other lenses can you buy?
Well, the main choices that are starting to open up now are quite vast, but the biggest trend is the all-day lens.
Right, okay, and what's that?
Well, all-day lenses, very simple. They're going to cover you the whole way through. You can use it for everything, and by that I mean 18, so as in general wide angle, right the way through your 50, up into your telephoto, and by that I mean anything like 200mm, approximately 20 times optical zoom in some respects. So you get a really good range of everything within one lens. There are pluses and there are negatives to this. I mean, the plus is you get one lens to carry on board your camera. No more changing of lenses, no more swapping stuff over. The only negative is it's got a lot of work to do. It's got a vast, it's not as dedicated.
Okay.
This can be questioned for the quality. A great example though, from a third-party manufacturer is the Sigma here. It's a DC 18 to 200mm. It's optical stabilised. Optical stabiliser, basically their word for image stabiliser, or as Nikon would call it, vibration reduction. This is a lovely feature to have on a lens that can cover such a vast range. Again, cancelling out your blur.
Yep.
Everyone else is offering at least one at the moment. One I thought was worth bringing to the table is Sony's version. Okay. Again, similar sort of range as this. Doesn't need to carry a stabiliser, however. On the stabiliser, with the Sony, it's all in the camera.
Right, okay.
That's one thing to look out for if you're looking at actually buying a Sony. Don't be put off if it hasn't got a stabiliser on the badge. It's all in the camera.
Okay, so what about any specialist lenses?
Well, a specialist, as the word would suggest, is quite an open dream. Where you've got there, you've got mainly your wide-angle lenses and your macro lenses. This is where you start to get into areas such as your landscape photographer, your detailed internal close-up photography. We won't go into that too much because it really is, like I say, a really long dream. You can be there all day.
Absolutely. And you've got some telephoto lenses here as well, is that right?
I mean, with a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, with your all-day lens, gives you a bit of everything. However, yes, nowadays, if you aren't so tied down to that idea of only having to carry one lens, for many people, it's still a better option to carry the two. What we tend to find is when you make the purchase of your standard camera, your lens, it will finish you off in the 50s or the 70s. You want to be finished starting off from about that point onwards.
Yep.
You don't have to feel that you're tied into buying the manufacturer of the camera with your lens either. Good examples come from people, like I said earlier, with Sigma. For example, this one here, this is made by Sigma. It's APO, which means they double-coated the glass in the lens, so you've got wonderful build quality. It's well made, it's light, and with all that, you've still got yourself 300mm optical range.
Right.
With that, you've actually got a bigger range than any of the all-day lenses we mentioned earlier. Sony also bringing to the plate a nice offer here. Again, what they've done with theirs is start it at 75.
Okay.
That way, finishing off exactly where you left off with your standard lens and giving you a little bit across. I will say I brought this one to the table, a little bit more chunky. Not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but the reason I brought it forward is because we spoke of the 40D earlier. Yeah. The 40D standard lens is way and above the means of standard, and what this is basically the big daddy to the standard lens that comes with the 40D. It's EFS, it's image stabilised, and it's got a USM motor. Everything about this lens mates perfectly with that camera. Image stabiliser, like I say, hugely beneficial when you've got any form of optical range. you're trying to stabilise what's going on there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. This is doing it physically within the lens.
What sort of price range is this one?
Well, what we're looking at here is about £380. So, like I say, all of that isn't necessarily peanuts. So, it's by no means as far as you can go.
No.
Strictly speaking, the sky's the limit with lenses. In actual fact, Canon have a £75,000 lens on the market currently.
Oh,
But within the general range, most people will tend to look for, when they're going up the range, isn't necessarily how expensive it is what it can do. And by that we mean, for example, the speed, for example, tends to increase, being able to carry a lower f-stop, letting more light in, working better at high speed. This is the sort of thing you start to see when using sports photography or wildlife photography, and that's what tends to drum in the extra pounds. Anything up to around about £1,300 average figure. That's what we're looking at for a telephoto nowadays.
Right, well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris, for everything you've done with us today. And a big thank you to Jessups for allowing us to be here today. We'll see you next time.